Hello, and welcome back to the podcast where you are invited for lighthearted conversations about things that matter as you seek to live your most meaningful, beautiful, and joyful life. I'm your host, Dr. Edie Wadsworth, and I hope you enjoy your stay here at the House of Joy.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back. We are popping in because we had some technical difficulties. We filmed a whole episode that I'm going to intro for you in just 1 second.
The episode was great. The intro
had
some crazy
the
sound
first 4 minutes
stuff.
was just crazy.
Yep.
So we're popping in from the future to tell you about this episode. This episode, I feel like I had this idea of Mom giving some practical examples of what she sees as a life coach, what people come to her as a life coach, the most common struggles.
Yep.
And I think this can be a really, really good episode for you guys because a lot of people ask, like, what is life coaching? How is it different than therapy? Like, what kind of things do people come and ask you? How do you help them? And I feel like this is a really good, like, intro to life coaching almost.
Yeah, it's kind of like the bread and butter of what I do, and the struggles that we talked about. I know so many of you are going to identify with them because I do, and we loved it. Like when we got done with the episode, we're like, oh my gosh, that one was so good.
Yeah.
That was so fun. And then Emmy was listening back to it, and the first 10 minutes of the intro were, you couldn't even really hear. You couldn't tell what we were saying very well. So that was crazy.
So we wanted to pop
the other thing that we didn't we, in this episode, we got off on a style tangent because we were dressed kind of alike.
From the very beginning, it's so funny listening back because in the moment we're just like going back and forth, but literally within the first 2 minutes, we were already talking about
We were
our
already down a
outfits.
rabbit hole of style.
So you'll see if you're watching on YouTube in the rest of the video, we're wearing our
The
Walmart
outfits we were wearing. Yeah.
We were coordinating green, and I think we go off on like a tangent about the jean jacket you're wearing and
We did.
how we're
If
coordinating.
you're needing a good denim jacket.
And our Walmart finds, and they will still all be linked below, but you are missing a little context, and so we wanted to fill you in.
Yes.
But this episode is so good, you're gonna love it, and no warning, you're just gonna be thrown into a jean jacket conversation.
Mid-conversation,
So
and you're going to love it.
Here is your context, and we hope you enjoy this episode.
Yep. So we just took this style class where she did our colors, but she also did like style tips. And one of the things she said is, and I didn't realize that this is why in my brain I'm like, oh, that jacket's kind of too long. But almost all denim jackets to me felt that way. Or you get a cropped one that feels like it's too short. So anyways, when she said this, I'm like, oh, that's why. She's like,
You
your
always
jacket
gravitate towards
that I always gravitate toward a certain length of jacket. But she said your jacket shouldn't hit you at the widest part of your body. And all of the ones it seems like the ones that I buy do hit me there. And so I just cut the hem off. Now
You took matters into your own hands.
I take it into my own hands, dear ones. And this is a very cheap denim jacket, but I love how thin it is for summer.
Yeah, it's
And
really good.
It's a great wash from Kohl's, so cheap. So we'll put that also on our like to know it.
Yes, but anyway, rocking Walmart fashion. This top is from Walmart. I think we'll probably have that linked at some point as well.
Yep.
And yeah, check out your local Walmart.
Right.
Because you might just
Do not sleep on Walmart fashion right now.
It is actually wild.
It's
They're
wild.
stepping it up.
Yeah, they are.
But let's get into
it. These 3 common struggles. So when we were planning this episode, Emmy goes, so what are the 3 most common struggles?
And I gave her this idea, and then I was like, okay, I'm actually interested what she would say.
What are they? And it was so clear to me what they are. So we're going to go through them one at a time. I bet at least one of them applies to you probably right now because they all apply to me at various times. The first thing that I notice is that women are, in general, the women that I coach, and I think humans in general, are not very good at regulating their emotional lives. So they come to me with a lot of emotional repression where they haven't processed a lot of emotion for various reasons, and we can talk about that. And they feel like they're not very emotionally resilient. They get dysregulated easily and aren't sure how to get themselves back into a good place. And I find that this is probably the most common thing that I see. In every workshop I teach, I end up teaching about this because it's so powerful.
Okay, I have a question
Yeah.
for the people listening.
Yeah.
Who hear emotional regulation
And repression, and they go, what does that mean?
Like, could you give us almost like a character or like an example of someone who would be...
Yeah. So here's how they present to me. One of the most common things they will say is, I feel stuck. When I hear that from a woman, here's what I could just guarantee you this is true. She feels stuck emotionally. She has not been in a good habit of processing emotions, letting emotions flow through her, being okay with a wide range of emotions, learning how to create emotions, learning how to be emotionally available. It just means that she's stuck emotionally. And that comes out in a lot of different ways. It can come out as you're stuck in one emotion. You like, people will come to me and say, I feel depressed all the time. I feel irritated all the time. I feel anxious all the time. I feel this. What that tells me is you're not actually feeling that emotion. You're resisting that emotion.
Interesting.
Because when you're actually feeling it and processing through it, then you get to experience a wide range of emotions. You don't just have one emotion all the time. You
do always say that to feel the biggest amount of joy, you have to be willing to feel,
to process all of the emotions.
Yeah.
Yes. And one of the things that I teach my students and clients is that emotions are good gifts from God. It's how we experience life. You can't know incredible joy if you don't know grief. You can't know sadness if you don't know joy. You can't, there's all of these sort of extremes and ranges of emotion, and that contrast is the stuff of life. That is how you're alive, right? And when I first started learning all about natural health and learning about the power of emotions and learning how to become way more resilient, it reminded me that I spent a lot of time as a medical doctor putting people on medications that would blunt their emotions. So a lot of women have been either they've experienced something that creates a disconnect between themselves and their body, or they've been on a medication for a long time that has so blunted their emotions that they just don't feel anything. So they either feel stuck in one emotion or they don't feel anything. And that to me is kind of a big red flag. We've got to get you experiencing your emotions, letting them flow through you. Emotions aren't dangerous. They're energy waves in your body.
You know what's so interesting too about my age, and me and Sydney were talking about this the other day, because it's a little harder to reach my age people because they haven't gotten necessarily to the point where they feel like for years they've been stuck. Yeah.
Or I've experienced one emotion.
This
is where it starts. Yeah.
Things still happen to women who are 20, and when you don't know how to regulate your emotions at this age, it builds up on each other. So you're now this is where you begin storing these things that you don't want to feel.
Yes. So young ladies, listen, don't do that.
Yes.
Your emotions are good gifts from God. It's just as important
to learn this.
Yes.
As a 20-year-old.
It's probably more important, maybe.
Because then you won't have to get to the point.
You won't end up
all the emotions
being
that you
45 and you feel like I haven't processed an emotion in 20 years.
Yeah.
And the thing that I noticed for myself when I started doing this, I'm like, oh my gosh, well, if I open up that dam, it's going to swallow me up. I felt like I was up to my neck in emotions. And if I dared, allow them, express them, all of that, then I just felt like it'll be too much. And turns out it's not, because they're not meant to be carried around in a backpack, which is kind of the analogy that I like. That's how I felt. I'm just carrying my whole life around in a backpack, and I haven't processed it or worked through it. And when I decided to set the backpack down and take a look inside, it does feel overwhelming at first.
You're like, now I have to live with all of this.
All of this stuff starts coming up. I remember the first time I got off antidepressants, I'm like, oh my gosh, that was repressing so many emotions. So much, came up for me. But what I've learned since then that's so freeing and so powerful is that those emotions are like little messengers, gifts from God. There's so much wisdom there. And I love to tell my clients, every emotion you process makes you stronger. Every emotion you suppress makes you weaker. Every emotion you process makes you wiser. Every emotion you resist, you don't get to take advantage of that wisdom. There's so much wisdom there.
Yes.
So you don't have to be afraid of them. Every human emotion has its place. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
Like, it's not like, oh, it's wrong for me to feel anger. No, that anger is there to tell you something. And can you lean in, tune in, ask like, oh, what are you trying to tell me, anger? Kind of allow it in your body, describe it in your body. And so that practice of just being willing to be with yourself in the hard emotions. We had an experience with this yesterday. We got some criticism in my business, and that's not new to me. I've been experiencing that for a long time, and yet it still stings.
Yeah, it's a little bit more new to me. So when it happens,
and so
now that I'm aware
that you're aware of it, you're like,
it does fire me up.
And I told Emme, I said, this is part of it. And the reason it stings a little is because we're human. We're not psychopaths. So of course,
like, we have feelings.
We have feelings. Of course it helps us. And so I just allowed, like, I usually even ask myself, like, oh, is there some wisdom here? Is there something that I can benefit from feeling this way? Because sometimes when you feel like, oh, I'm being attacked or misunderstood, you want to get defensive. But I try to soften to that and to ask, what can I gain from this? What's the wisdom for me here? And I just like allow it. And it feels a little bit bad in your body for a minute. But I'm telling you, learning to do that is a superpower. And because the more you learn to do that, the more you can generate the emotions you want. And we're going to talk about that in number 3 today, where we want you to know how to generate emotions. So we want you to know how to process the hard ones, and we want you to know how to generate the ones you want to generate. If you want to feel more joy, more purpose, more desire, more meaning, you can. And that's within your power. And so this is one of the reasons that I think this is so important for all of us to know how to do.
I also, just because I want it to be super practical, like if someone is now listening being like, okay, definitely that's me, I feel stuck or whatever.
Yeah.
Is there, like, would you just say like journaling or, just sitting with yourself, becoming more aware of it? Is that the first step?
Yeah, because a lot of times what we do is we will suppress it. Like, you'll start to feel something like, say for instance, you're in some kind of struggle with your spouse, and you start to feel like you're activated, like, oh gosh, that hit a nerve, or I feel triggered, or I'm kind of activated by that. What we will do is kind of say, I don't have time for that right now.
I walk away.
I gotta do this. And so we suppress it. It's fine to do, temporarily, but make sure you come back around to it and say, like, yeah, I was feeling really some sort of way. Let me tune into my body and ask myself, oh, why was I feeling that way? Like, it's basically learning to process your life, because what happens is we say to ourselves, I don't have time for that right now. And we say that for 20 years straight.
Yeah.
And then you end up in this place where you feel like you're either totally numb and don't feel anything anymore. I definitely don't want to go through life that way.
Yeah.
Or every emotion feels overwhelming. A clue would be, if everything in your life feels overwhelming, you're not processing emotions.
There is something in there trying to...
Yes. Trying to get your attention. Let it get your attention. Like, ask, okay, you got my attention.
Yes.
Okay, we're feeling disappointed. What are we feeling disappointed about? Disappointment is not going to kill me. It's okay to feel disappointed. I can breathe through it. I can think about the thing that makes me feel disappointed. I can go for a walk. Sometimes I'll even go for a walk and process emotions as I walk.
Putting energy into the...
Yeah, something like that. So we have a whole, module inside of Life Mentoring School on this emotional resilience piece. So there's a lot to it, but this is something that everybody should learn to do, and you get better at it by practicing.
Yeah, and it's worth becoming aware, because... If you knew that in 2 years, by doing a lot of hard work now, you would feel the full extent of joy and happiness and excitement and all of that, you would want to now start
Yes.
becoming aware.
And I will notice it on coaching calls. If my client starts to talk to me about something and instantly tears come, let's pause.
Yeah.
Let's listen to that.
And that is such a human reaction, especially, I think, probably for women. Like, I'll notice sometimes I just am on the verge of tears.
Yeah.
And
you don't even know why.
I don't even know why. But then, like, I really do know why once I sit and think about it for a second. Like, I remember there was last week, we were about to go to Iowa for the wedding.
Oh, yes.
And we were supposed to film an episode.
We were going to film an episode. Yeah. This was 2 or 3 weeks ago. Yeah.
Yeah. And I, like, woke up. I was fine. And then for some reason, right before we filmed, like literally right before we were going to film.
I know. I could see it in your eyes. I'm like, oh, she's not okay.
I just like was on the verge of tears.
Yeah.
And I kept being like, I literally don't know.
Yeah.
Like what's going on. But it ended up being like, I think probably about Haddon or something. And I just needed to process it. And I needed to just like let it happen. And we didn't get to film. Yeah. But I was so glad that instead of filming, that came up because my energy was off. And anyway, sometimes it does just present itself
at inopportune times.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And so I just think this is a skill that at all ages, I mean, I still work on this. I still work on opening up to hard emotions, opening up when I feel disappointed or rejected or when things feel hard. You know, we just are in our last month of this new master coach training that I created, and I had a lot of hard emotions to work through. As I was creating it, in the first month or so of delivering it, it just felt like, oh, this is asking me to go to a deeper level in myself. It's asking me to kind of confront hard emotions in myself. And so it's something that it's never a finished work. It's just, you know, it's really part of life. We should learn this in high school, possibly, instead of what is some course that you totally don't need in high school.
Oh, I mean, I don't think I used most of them, but that's probably not normal.
Yeah. But. Yes. So anyways, that's definitely the most common. Okay. So let's move along to the second thing that I see that women are struggling with the most. And that would be this harsh type critical voice that they have in their head, which you could say is like negative self-talk or a constant negativity that they feel like is always coming up for them. I would say that this is second to the emotional issues. This is definitely second. And what I often find is that if you can help them sort it out, that negative voice is coming usually from a voice that they heard a lot when they were younger, maybe a teacher, maybe a coach, maybe a parent. Not always, but they'll go, yeah, I've just always been so hard on myself, you know, or, but also our brains are just wired negative. So even if you didn't have that, our brains are just wired negative. So you'll end up having this sort of negative voice in your head that you hear all the time. Here's the mistake that people make. They think, well, I just always am thinking these things. Yeah, but you are the one, you have agency over that. So yes, your brain is going to offer you thousands of thoughts in a day. You get to be the one who decides which one you focus on. You get to be the one that rewrites the narrative there. You get to be the one that bosses that, you know, part of your brain that is always offering you that sort of survival part that's always offering you something negative. And the way I like to help my clients rewrite it is, how would God think about this? How does he think about you? What are his thoughts about you? What are his thoughts about this relationship? What are his thoughts about whatever issue it is? And it kind of helps us, you know, take in a little bit, like take the high ground, look at it from a different perspective, see it through new eyes. And I really do believe that this is such a huge key in creating a life that you really do love, because there are literally miracles everywhere. And have you tuned your heart to see them?
Yeah.
You know,
and that's, this has been probably the biggest change that we had such a sweet comment do you remember? I sent it to you on YouTube, and it was just this sweet, sweet lady talking about, like, she had seen this transformation in me over the last year.
That. Yes.
And it got me thinking because, I mean, obviously I feel that, but it's so interesting when other people can see that within you as well.
Yes.
And so it was just got me thinking about, like, what I feel like has given me that transformation. And I think within the last 6 months of being coached and, you know, having a listening ear and someone, you know, examining my thoughts as well.
Yes.
Like, I am so geared, like everyone else, to negativity towards myself and just almost assuming the worst.
Yes.
About myself.
Yes.
And it literally paints how you see everything else.
Yeah.
Because if you can't see yourself in a good way, you most definitely can't see other people in a good way.
Yeah. And it can feel like, oh, my brain is kind of always bullying me. No, your brain is untrained. You haven't trained it what to think on. I love the scripture that says all things that are lovely, kind, beautiful, worthy, you know, think on these things. You have to train your brain to think differently.
It is definitely not, it's definitely not normal. It's definitely not the first thing your mind goes to.
Yeah.
And when I'm really struggling inwardly, because I'm just in my head a lot.
Yeah.
And, you know, I experience a lot of my life through myself, like in my head.
Yes.
And not everyone has that exact same experience, but a lot of people, I mean, everyone has that many thoughts a day. And when you realize how you're talking to yourself, like, of course you're feeling negative, or of course you're feeling like overwhelmed, or like when I became aware of what I was saying about myself and how mean I was being about certain situations, it's just like, of course, then you're having a negative experience of
yes. Life. It reminds me of that quote. I think it's Aristotle that says, "You are what you repeatedly do. Excellence then is not an act, but a habit." And I like to rephrase that. You are what you repeatedly think, because how you think is how you act. So if you are constantly thinking, I'm behind, you act behind. You will, and then you will be behind, right? If you're constantly thinking, I'm not worthy, then you will act in a way that is congruent with that. And so you have to ask yourself, what do I actually want to create in my life? I want to create purpose and connection and joy and peace and, you know, all of these things in my life that I want to create. I have to be thinking that way. And one of the things that we teach in my program is true self, false self, and the scriptures call it old man, new man. But the more you think like your true self would think, the highest thoughts you can think about yourself, the highest thoughts you can think about others, the more you act toward yourself and others from that true self. And the more you think about others, like they have a true and a false self. So often we're judging people by their behavior instead of like, oh, what's underneath that? How can I try to see the true self in them and nurture that, you know, more in them? Because how that critical voice often gets created is that somebody was speaking always to your false self when you were younger, or maybe, you know, in whatever role you're in. And then you start to act from that and believe that.
And then you start to speak to other people.
Then you start to speak to other people like that. Instead of us speaking into each other's true identity, our true selves, the way God created us to be, fully redeemed, fully whole. And I just think that this is something that we can all pay attention to and listen for those critical voices. And we have the ability to rewrite that. We have agency over that. God has given us, you know, this part of our brains that can also override that. And so you are not the sum of your thoughts. You get to decide what about this do I want to focus on? How do I want to rewrite this story?
Yeah, you are not a prisoner of your own thoughts.
That's right.
You get to
decide.
Be in charge.
Yeah. So that one is really powerful as well.
Yeah, that is.
And then the third thing, which I would say this is maybe not as, this could be as common though in your age group. You'll have to tell me. But the third thing that I hear most often is, I don't feel like I'm living in my purpose. I don't know what I want anymore. Like women getting to an age where they feel like they've done all the things and they wake up one day and go, well, is this all there is? Because this doesn't feel whatever, purposeful, meaningful. I don't know. I don't even know what I'm supposed to be doing in this phase of life. And I do think that can be common in your age group
No,
too.
it is. And when I was planning episodes, a lot that came up for me is it's kind of two sides of the same coin, because people your age feel like, well,
I've done all
I've
that.
done it all.
Yeah.
And people my age.
And now what? Or I don't know what.
Yes.
Yeah.
And people my age feel like it's overwhelmed by how much there is to choose, and the purpose feels just as lost in that, because it feels like, well, if I don't feel called towards anything, then there's no purpose in any of it.
Right.
You know? And so it's still just a loss of purpose. It's still a confusion of dreams and not knowing how to dream. It's all the same.
Same. Yeah.
But it probably comes from different, pressures.
Yeah. And I find that women in general, and this could tie back to not really allowing and processing emotions. So, I think it can stem from that. But a lot of times women that I coach are like, yeah, I don't even know what I want. I don't know what my desires are. Or they will say, well, I don't trust my desires. Like my desires are selfish. And I love to help women reimagine that, because the things that call to you that you really want, those are from God.
Yeah.
Those are holy. Those are, I can think of things in my own life that I can remember forever feeling called to write a book, forever being called to adopt a child, forever, being called to mentor women. And I mean, I can not tune into that and not pay attention to that, or I can so suppress my emotions and carry them around in a backpack for so long that I really don't know what I want. But I think it's so powerful to tune into your desire. And then, because we can create emotions, we create emotions with the way we think, you can create desire for what you're already doing.
Yeah.
So it's just like what you said, Em. Like, oh, I don't really know what I want. Well, if you tune into that, you probably do. You probably have some idea. And then you can create a lot more desire for that. So one of the things that I love to teach my women is start creating desire for what you already have. Yeah. Start creating desire for the marriage you have right now. How could you show up to that marriage in a different way, with a different lens, from a different perspective? Creating desire for the life you already have. Because I guarantee you, if you don't learn how to enjoy the life you already have, you won't be able to create the thing that you've maybe been wanting to create.
Yeah, and I think for what struck to me is, like, I've had periods as someone my age, I guess it's less probably feeling like, I mean, actually maybe not that the life you have isn't, I mean, I feel like it's a little bit less of that for people my age and more fear.
Okay.
Of like,
I'm going to do it wrong, or I'm going to pick something wrong.
Even going to what your deepest desire would be and what you really feel passionate about.
Yeah.
At least for me, it's been more out of fear.
Yeah.
Of what that could look like, or what I would have to do to get there.
Yes.
And less of not really knowing.
Okay.
But
that makes sense.
You kind of cover it and mask it with, oh, I don't know what I even want or what I like. Because you're deep down.
That's easier to say.
That's so much easier to say.
Because if you acknowledge what you want, then you feel like, oh, now I've said it.
And
this is why when I have
stakes.
Women on a call, I'm like, tell me in the chat. First thing that comes to mind when I say, what have you always wanted to do? Because sometimes just getting them to say it feels like, oh, that's scary. Like I wrote it down, or, someone saw that I said that.
Yeah.
And, it's just it's kind of like getting to the point where you really have your spark back. Because think of the thing that separates us from what makes us really alive, what makes us feel really alive. It's kind of that desire that we have for each other, that desire that we have to create things in the world. Like if we didn't have that, imagine all the things that have been created in the world because somebody had this burning passion to do it, or this amazing idea, or this desire to make the world better, in some way. And I will have people say all the time, well, like somebody said this to me on a call the other day. Like, it just feels like that whatever you do has that quality to it. And I'm like, yeah, but it's because I bring that quality to it, right? Like, you might not be that excited about learning how to wake surf, but if you talk to me for 10 or 15 minutes about it, I'm probably going to motivate you to try it because it's so amazing and so fun and so challenging. So even something
and I think
as
that
trivial
can be
as
the
that.
big misconception, especially, like, I do believe that a lot of people are born, and some people more than others, with like a very, very specific thing they want to do.
Yeah.
And like, I think of me and Ellie, for example.
Yeah.
Like,
she's always had this one
did
thing.
Feel like to me, she had this one thing.
Yeah.
And I just didn't get that.
But here's what I want to tell you. I've never had that for just one thing.
Well, exactly. And I think that's the misconception. For some people, it looks like that.
Yes.
For some people, you have to want to find the
thing, or you have to. Here's the way I look at it. To be honest, I just approach everything like that.
Yes.
Whatever I put my hands to, I want to go all in.
And just because you don't feel like 100% passion for one thing, it doesn't have to look like that. You can just bring energy and passion to anything and everything you do. Yes. And there's need for both. And I think I used to feel really down on myself because
you didn't feel like
I'm kind of the same way. There's
thing.
Like not one super big thing I'm passionate about. I'm passionate about a lot of different things, and that used to really make me feel like I missed out on an opportunity. I even used to think for a little bit of after college, because Ellie seemed so settled in what she did, and because it was one thing that she pursued for all the years, I was like, oh, I should have just done that. And I just remember feeling like, when am I going to feel that sort of passion towards what I'm supposed to do? Yeah. And I always did feel like I just had to wait for that to come. Mm-hmm. And what I've learned as an adult, even for Ellie, like, she probably didn't ever feel like there was a moment where dance chose her and that was the deepest passion of her heart. No, she did it for 16 years. Right. And
she kept bringing
it, and she kept bringing herself to it.
She kept choosing it. Yes.
And it's probably true for most people. Yeah. Like, they've probably, swimmers or people who have a one passion of their whole life, like, they also had to choose to do that. And just because there's not one specific thing that you're called to do, or that you feel specifically like, I feel like at this stage of life, it's pretty rare for someone to have that strong of a calling towards one thing. Yes. And it is our job to bring that passion to the things we do. And I think over time, if you really truly bring yourself to everything, it will be more clear what a couple things that you feel really passionate about. Yeah.
And I think, like, for me, I have always had so many different passions, but I also can see kind of a through line there. Like, most of the things that I am drawn to are ways to take information in and synthesize it and give it back. So I've always been a voracious reader. I've always, been like a lifelong learner, taking courses, I've always been like that. And then I take that information in and synthesize it in my own way, and then kind of, give it back to people. So sometimes that's been in books or programs or in a coaching call, or a blog or whatever. But I can see kind of a through line for myself that maybe back then I couldn't have seen, but I've always felt the same as you, like, drawn to so many things.
Yeah. And I think it's really a fun thing to be like that, and I am getting to the point where I appreciate that about myself, and not as much like make it wrong, which is what I've done for a lot of my life, I feel like. But yeah, I'm really glad that I see it in a different way.
Yes.
Because I did used to think that,
well, there's something wrong with me because I don't know my one thing.
Something that just comes to me.
Yeah.
And I must be doing something
instead,
wrong if
you're the one bringing purpose to each thing you do. You're the one bringing meaning to each thing you do. When I show up on Fridays to my grandbabies, to me, that's no different than all the purpose and meaning and intention that I bring when I show up to teach a class or when I show up to a coaching call. I want to bring it.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like my full-hearted self to whatever I'm doing. Which is why everyone, my grandbabies are coming in 2 weeks to stay, and my mind is going crazy.
House.
I'm like, okay, we need to swing somewhere. Okay, where are we going to do this? Oh, what else are we going to do that weekend? Like, I mean, you would think
she's redoing the house for the babies.
Yes, you would think that I was getting ready to host, a nursery here or something. So, anywho. But if this has resonated with you, we love it when you share the podcast. We love it when you send the link to your friends, when you tell them about it. And we thank you so much for listening and leaving reviews. And we are going to finish with a few of our favorite things.
Okay. I've thought of one so
Tell
far.
Me one.
And I just was talking about it with you. Bon Iver. Well, I say Bon Iver, but Mom corrected me really fast.
I said, oh, you
yesterday.
mean Bon Iver?
Bon Iver.
The musician.
He has a new album.
I haven't listened yet. Is it so good?
It's really good. I feel like not everyone likes that slower. He is really like...
I love his voice, though.
His voice is so good, and it's something nostalgic in me. Mm-hmm. And the album's really good. So if you haven't listened to it, I think it's called... Just look it up. You got it. I don't remember, but... It's like Fable or something
Bon
like
Iver, but
yes.
It's pronounced Bon Iver.
But anyway, I have just started diving into that album. You know, when I feel like I'm either a music or a podcast person, and right now I'm transitioning from like a heavy podcast phase into like heavy music, where I just like straight up listen to music the whole car ride, or I'm either one or the other. And right now I've been in my music era, so
good. I just finished a book called Splunkna, The Redeeming of Energy Psychology for the Kingdom of God, or something like that. I've talked about Splunkna therapy a lot. Sarah Thiessen wrote this book like 20 years ago and developed this way of doing therapy called Splunkna. And I have received this therapy like literally, I feel like, could it be hundreds of times now with Tom and I. Working through all the stuff from his past and his trauma and my past and my trauma. And I fully believe in this type of energy therapy. It's so good. But after reading this book, there was one concept on there that has stuck with me. I went back and listened to this part of the book several times. And I think we're going to have Sarah on the podcast, by the way.
Yeah, that would be amazing.
She actually, somebody who listens to our podcast, went to her training and told her, I heard about you through House of Joy.
That is wild.
Isn't it wild?
Because I really think we've mentioned it maybe twice ever.
Yeah. It's crazy.
That's crazy.
So then she emailed us and said, thank you so much for referring, this person to our training.
You're welcome.
You're welcome. And anywho, but she was talking about how that parts of the training that she uses to help people heal from trauma has to do with muscle testing, has to do with what other people would call energy healing. And she has gotten a lot of backlash from the Christian community because they're like, oh, there's elements of witchcraft in that, or there's elements of New Age in that. And she goes through, she's so smart, and she goes through and breaks down why it doesn't have elements of any of that in it. And she said that when she was developing this way of helping people heal from past trauma and be restored to their like God-given design so that they could fully function, in the world. Her sister-in-law was with her, and her sister-in-law is like, I just want to use this to kind of illustrate why I don't really understand what you're doing. And she was with Sarah, and she drew this line. They were like somewhere outside, and she drew a line in the sand, and she said, I feel like you operate right here, right at the line. And she said, as a believer, shouldn't we stay so far away from the line? Shouldn't we, be far from the line? She said, I feel like what you're doing is you're coming right up to the line.
You're not
crossing
it, but
you're coming right up to it. And Sarah said, yeah, I am. And I thought this was so fascinating because she said, yeah, because if the line's right here, was God wrong? Should he have made the line back here where most people safely live? Is that where the line should be?
Very interesting.
Because there's a lot of life between the two. There's a lot of people between the two that maybe can't be reached if the line was here. So if the line was here, if he wanted the line there, would he have made it there? The whole thing was so
very
fascinating to me. I don't get that kind of exact criticism, but I do have people say, like, well, if we have Jesus, then why do we need coaching? To me, that's kind of like saying, if we need Jesus, why do we need teachers to teach us our mathematics? Or why do we need therapists? Or why do we need doctors?
People want things to be super black and white, and they're just not. And you can try to make sense of things in a very black and white way. And if you want
or you can see the nuance.
Or you can believe that there's nuance. And I believe that there's nuance. And I think... Thank goodness there is, because not everything makes sense to everyone.
Yes.
And I like that a lot.
It was really cool.
That's really interesting.
Yeah, I've thought about it a lot since then. I'm like, oh, she's so brilliant. She's such a smart person and such a good writer that I feel like even if you weren't interested in this kind of, energy healing redemption story, she's so smart. She reminds me of C.S. Lewis a little bit in how she thinks. So she gives, like, when she is trying to say how this type of healing is not of the New Age, she starts at the beginning. Here's how New Age was developed. Here are the practices in it. Here's why, here's what we should be careful of. Here's where the line is crossed.
Yeah.
Here's where, it's so thorough that most of the book I've listened to twice already.
I've got to listen to it.
It's really good. So that's one thing that I've been loving, just her ideas and the ideas that, she shared in the book. It's just so good and so smart and so stimulating. The other thing that I'm loving are I would say 4 now Walmart dresses that I have that are going to be staples of my summer boating season. This one
it is really
that I'm
just
wearing
so crazy
right now included. So we will link to our, Like to Know It account where you can find the ones that we're talking about, but I'm telling you, loving it.
Yeah, I'm loving it too. I'm trying to think if I
Do
have,
you have any
another thing that I've been loving.
That you're loving?
Obviously my protein coffee in the morning. That has become a big staple. I literally even had it here.
You did. I got you your, cold brew so you could make it.
Yeah. What I do is I do a scoop and a little bit more of Ballerina Farms chocolate protein powder and water. I've found that doing that much milk right in the morning, not good for me. So I just do it in water. Tastes just as good. Like, I really think, it's not as rich, but it's still good. And then I put a dash of some cold brew in there. And it has been sustaining me energy throughout a day. Just a lot better. I think getting it that immediately after I wake up has been good. So that's been something I've really been loving. We'll link to the Ballerina Farms.
Ballerina Farm.
It's a little bit more expensive, but I will be buying again. I am definitely obsessed with that stuff.
I do want to say this before we go. I kind of redid my porch for spring and summer with my new Anthropologie striped pillows. You guys, it is so cute out there.
It looks so good.
I have some hydrangeas out there. I moved one of my indoor houseplants outside. My houseplant situation is crazy around here. So I usually move a few of those outside for spring and summer, but it looks so cute.
Yes, it does. It looks so cute.
It's really cute out there.
Yeah.
So, all right, you guys. Well, thank you for listening. We love you so much.
We love you guys.
We'll see you next episode of House of Joy.
Yes. Bye.
Bye.